Hi, welcome to the channel. Today it's Ford Ranger time. This is my son-in-law's Ford Ranger. She's a 2016. It's a 3.2 turbo diesel, and the transmission's gone. So let me explain a wee bit about this. So as you can see, it's not just the transmission that's gone. The bonnet struts. Anyway, I've got my sledgehammer up there to hold the bonnet open. So what's happened is the transmission's gone. It's not slipping, it's not making noises, it's just gone, just completely. He was driving it to work one morning and he was in drive. He turned round onto the road, slip road down to the freeway, and the transmission just went, just completely gone, nothing. You put it into drive, you put it into reverse, the engine just revs, it's like there's no connection. So I've been looking up in these things, and one of the problems, you've got three models of the Ford Ranger. You've got a PX1, PX2 and PX3. The PX1, you very seldom get this problem. The PX2 and the PX3, the torque converter, which is the bit that turns the transmission, is connected to the flywheel on the engine, and it's a plate that's riveted on to the torque converter with the bolts that go through the flywheel. On the PX1 there's 6 rivets or 8 rivets, I can't quite remember, but on the PX2 and the PX3 there was only, I think, 4 rivets. I might be wrong, but something like that. And the PX2 and the PX3 models have they have this problem. Some of them, the plate shears off the torque converter, so the plate's turning around on the flywheel and the torque converter's sitting there, it's not connected to it. That's one of the issues that you can have with this, and to me that's what it sounds like, and I'll explain why. So I've got one of these code readers, so I plugged it in to the OBD2 port, and it came up with 3 errors, and the 3 errors was a glow plug, the control module under here, which is to control your lights and wipers and doors and everything, door locks, said there was a fault in the module here, and I can't remember what the third one was offhand, but the codes that came up with nothing to do with transmission. I checked to see if there was any codes in the transmission, absolutely nothing. It's like everything works in the transmission. So the only thing that it won't show up on the code reader is if this plate in the torque converter shears off, because there's no sensors there to show. So I'm assuming this is what it is. So the job with this is to get the transmission off, which isn't very easy when you're sitting on axle stands, and see if it's the torque converter. If it is the torque converter, we can either A, get it repaired, B, get a billet torque converter, or just get the standard normal one. I wouldn't want a standard normal one because it would probably just do the same again in a year or two's time. So probably the billet one, and it also improves your gear shifting and your acceleration and things like that. So anyway, we'll roll the theme and then I'll show you exactly what I've done so far and what I've still got to do. So, now that we're back, it's really hard getting into the bonnet. The thing's quite high as it is, and sometimes you have to stand in a wee block, but I've got this up on the ramps and I've got axle stands at the back, just to lift the car up so that I can get underneath. So I need to disconnect the exhaust up here somewhere, down here. I need to disconnect it here, and I need to disconnect it under the car and get it out of the way so that I can get under to get the transmission off. So as you can see, I've dropped the tail shaft off here, and I've dropped the front one off its line, next to it there, and I've taken off the transfer casing. So the transfer fits onto the end of the transmission. There's the transmission there. The transfer box bolts onto the end of that, and on one end of it is the back tail prop goes on, and then there's another bit, this bit here where the front goes on up to the front, so it makes it 4-wheel drive. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs. There's an exhaust here, runs along here. I'm going to drop that off just to give me easy access. I've got the cross member off, and I've got the back of the trans sitting on an axle stand, so what I'll do is I'll get my trolley jack under there, take the stand out, and I can lower this down. I'll tilt the engine up and the transmission down, and that way it'll allow me to get long extensions up to get the bolts off the housing, or at least that's what I'm hoping. We'll see how it goes. So one of the things I need to do is just take this exhaust pipe off, so I'm going to have to spray these with WD-40 and let them sit for a wee while. Then I'll come back, unbolt these, unbolt it up the top, and then I can remove that exhaust piece out the way, and then it'll allow me to get into the, or to drop the transmission down a bit to get the bolts out and to actually drop the transmission out of the car itself. Goodness. And also I'll need to have a wee clear up. I have got one of these scroll boards to lie under, but there's still not a lot of room under this car, so I'm going to get a couple of wooden boards under here, clear up all this mess and lay a couple of boards down to lie on. But in the meantime, it's time to go and get a Macca's cup of coffee while that WD-40 does its job. And once that's done, we'll start dismantling everything and try and get this transmission off. Fingers crossed. I'll try and do this, see if I can. That's good. There we go. I just didn't like to force it. Yep. Now, I'll put these nuts somewhere safe. Just set them up there now. I know what they're for. So, now to see if we can get the top ones slackened. So, in order to get into this bonnet, get the exhaust off, you need to use a step ladder, I mean, it is on ramps, yeah, but even normally when you're working on this, it's a bugger. You hurt your ribs trying to get inside the bonnet. Anyway, I'll go and get a spanner for this. Bloody hell. Well, that'll be that off. That's the bracket disconnected from the transmission and engine. So here we're under the car. There's a couple of bolts under here going to the gearbox, and then the transmission, I should say, and then the rest are, yeah, the rest are up there, up here. Don't know if you can see that or not, but there's a bolt up here, there's these two here, there's one here, one at the other side, and then a couple at the top, as far as I'm aware. But I'll try and get these one off here. You might be able to take this off and actually see the torque converter, maybe. Anyway, I'll try and get a socket for that.
goodness. Oh, see up here, the plate. There should be a fixing plate behind it and a torque conveyor. So anyway, we've got to see if we can move that a wee bit. And I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like with my wee camera. Right, so here's my wee screwdriver. Right, here we are. Here's the flexi plate, okay? And just behind there you'll see the bolt. That's one of the bolts where the torque converter plate is bolted to the flexi plate. If you look up this hole here, in this hole here, you'll see one of the rivets. You can see the actual plate inside there with a rivet bolting onto a torque converter. And that thing behind that internal plate is torque converter. So when I turn, if I can get it, when I turn this, what should happen is that flexi plate should turn. It should turn the plate in behind it, which should turn the torque converter. Now watch, I'll do it slowly. You see that? That showed exactly how the flywheel or flexi plate, as some like to call it, is turning, but everything inside is not. The plate inside's turning because it's bolted to this, but the torque converter is not. Oh. And that tells you that your torque converter plate that fixes onto your flexi plate or flywheel, whatever you want to call it, is sheared off. So I'll show you what I'm up to now. So I'm taking these torque converter bolts out. I don't think you need to, because the plate's broken, so the torque converter will come off with the transmission anyway, but just in case, I'm taking them out. I've taken out, oh, I've got 4 bolts so far. Here's number 5, and I'm just using my magic tool. Can't do it one-handed. Anyway, take these bolts, I think there's 6 of them, and then the transmission should be ready to go. Everything's just lower the jack a bit, as low as you can get it. Right. We should be able to see up here, if we can, a couple of bolts. That we can get with a long socket and an extension. See that thing above it? ERG cooler. So that's no bad. So I'll lower it down a wee bit more, just to get the best. So I'll just put this wee snipper. I'll put the lights at this side, and I'll get these couple of bolts out. So long extensions does the job. I might be overdone my extensions a wee bit. Get that one out. The more extensions you have, the less power you have in your drill. So anyway, let's try this. There we go, there's one. I'll put them in a specific order so as I know how they go. It doesn't slacken it, just shorten your extension. The longer your extension is, then the less power you have, and then you have to put a bar on it to get it done. Well, that's the bolts out. 2 at the side, there's 2 at the top and 1 at this side, and the 2 at the bottom that hold a wee plate on where you can see the torque converter. But then I'll show you the next one. So we need to come round to the front of the Ranger. Slide underneath, excuse the bright light. And because it was only There's your transmission. Because there was like 2 at the bottom, 2 at the top, 2 at this side, and only 1 at this side, which you can see where it's came out of there, I was able to get it. There's also 2 up here. You can actually see them. 1 there, and there's 1 just above it. These 2, they've got to come out. Be easier if I could have got this fucking exhaust stuff, but the top bolts, somebody's ratcheted them up with an air gun, and I can't even slacken them. I might get 1 more try, see if I can slacken them, because if I was able to drop that, I'd get my arm up there quite easily to take out these bolts, but yeah. I'll give that a 1 more try and see how it goes. Well, there you go. There's the transmission off. And here it is here. Just take a breath with pulling that bloody thing off. Here's the torque converter in here. This is going to give you a better look at what happens. See all these wee points? They're like rivets where it's been riveted on. Anyway, they've been on there like that. Or something like that. Riveted on like that. And then these bolt onto the flywheel. And what's happened is that's just sheared off, and I'm quite surprised because this one's, yeah, I don't know how many were actually. Well, they must have all been. That's unusual. That's pretty well on. So I need to take the torque converter off now and have a wee look. I've got a cloth here for any spillage because there's bound to be fluid in it. And see, no lightweight. Wow, Jesus Christ, that's heavy. So here's the torque converter, right? That's what it looks like. There's what it goes on to. There's 2 shafts here it has to mate, and then there's two wee flat bits on the end of there. Has to mate with a bit inside here. But you can feel it when it clicks on, and you know by how far it's actually went in. It does go in quite a bit. Well, here we are. I'll show you now I've got it all off. This is the next day. When I finished and I got all this off, it was just, there was too much to do to try and video it all. But anyway, here's the finished product. Here's your torque converter. I've stuck this rag in it, or the fluid will piddle out. And I'll show you exactly it was as I predicted. I'll just lower you down a wee bit so as you can see. There. So here's the mounting plate. Now as you can see, there's what looks like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, is it 12? Aye, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 looks like rivets, doesn't it? Anyway, these are actually welds that go in the torque converter, and just like that, or something like that anyway. So that's how it's held on. Now the PX2 and the PX3, these have got a habit of shearing off, just like that it's done. And the reason that they do that is usually when it's doing a lot of work, especially towing and things like that, it puts a lot of strain on it. The PX1 doesn't do it, because as you see where these what looks like studs, there's another one in between each one. So they were welded on with an extra 5 or 6 welds on it, and it made it that much stronger that it was very seldom a PX1 would do this. Now if you're wondering if you've got a Ranger, PX1, PX2, PX3, the PX2 and the PX3 are the ones that this happens to. So a PX1 is a Ranger built up to 2015, so if you've got one of them, you're fine. If it's built from 2016 to 2019, that's a PX2, which is what this is. And if it's built from or sorry, 2018. And if it's built from 2019 to 2021, that's a PX3. So the 2 and the 3 are the ones where this can... And if you've got one that's running fine, don't worry, it's not going to snap off. But if you do a wee bit heavy work, like putting a trailer on and towing it, this thing just shears. So there you go. That's the end result of it. And luckily, when this sheared the actual torque converter, because it pulls out a wee bit when it's bolted onto the flexi plate, when it's sheared it just went back in. So that wasn't really rubbing against that. It did when it first broke and then it settled back in, so it didn't cause any damage, which is lucky. But I've seen some of them with this coming off, with this spriget here, which goes into the middle of the flywheel, with that snapped off. I've seen a hell of a lot of damage. If the weld breaks and any of that goes inside, then yeah, it causes a hell of a damage. So anyway, if you've got one and you're going to work on it and you're going to change this, you can buy a billet one. It's costing, oh, what is it now? It's about $1,750, half that for UK pounds. But it comes, it's been refurbished, it's got new bearings, bigger heavy duty bearings, it's got new clutch plates in it, it's all, yeah, it's way above and beyond what's needed. And as for this plate, instead of having this wee plate welded on here, it's actually got a big heavy ring, heavy duty ring, welded onto it, securely welded on, and it's got holes where bolts go through, so when you put it back in, you got to line it up and put the bolts in this time to hold the torque converter in, and that won't snap. It won't snap at all. It also has a locking ring inside with the new ones, which means if you're going up about, if you're towing and you hit about 40 kilometres an hour, it actually locks the transmission. So it's like driving a manual, you know, it speeds up and slows down with the revs, and it means there's no slippage of any kind, which is going to damage your torque converter, and it makes it easier for towing a trailer. But a wee tip though, if you're towing a trailer, you're better using it in manual, you know, just use the up and down, because at least if you hold it in gears till you get your revs up, you know, it's not going to cause any damage. If you keep it in full automatic, it slips a wee bit, you know, and you might cause damage towing. So it's always a good idea to use it sort of manual when you're towing. Anyway, that's it. This is out. It's done. It's just a short video because a lot of the time I didn't have much time to video. So next week I should be going to pick the new baby up, and I'll show you how that fits back into the transmission and how to install everything back together and to test it. So I hope you've enjoyed that wee bit, and just to show you, she's still sitting in the same position and everything's exactly where I left it. Transmission, yeah, it looks a really big job, and if you've got one of them and you want to do it, you know, it's just, if you can get the car high enough, like I've got mine on the ramps, I'm going to buy a bigger set of ramps, and the axle stands on the back. If you can do that, that's up high enough, you can get under it, disconnect everything, and then when you've got everything disconnected and a jack under the transmission, you can lower it down so the engine transmission tilts, and with a long socket you can get into these bolts, get the bolt off, and the transmission more or less slides off. Just make sure you've got a jack under it. Not a hard job to do, it's something the home DIY mechanic can do. Don't be put off by stories about, you know, oh, it's a big job, it's too heavy, it's not a one-man thing. Yeah, you can do it. I had a mate down helping me, fell him, which was good. He gave me a hand with most of it, and then the actual bit of taking the transmission off, I was on my own, but it was easy enough. But that's it, anyway. So, next week, we're going to get a new one of these. We're going to fit it into the transmission, get a transmission on, and get everything fitted up, and then take her for a wee swanky run somewhere, and just maybe give the bloody thing a wash. Oh, and just in case you're wondering, the Falcon went for its roadie. It's failed in one or two silly wee things, like
inside the lens there's a bit dampness. The indicator bulbs are faded till they're almost white, so I need to put orange bulbs in them. The top control arms, the bushes have gone, 5-minute job, and the back shockers, the bushes have gone at the top of the back shockers, another 5-minute job. The only thing that I need to do is get the compliance done on the gas tank. The garage doing the road, they check the tank over for leaks and everything, but because the tank's out of date, I need to get a compliance test done on it. Somebody needs to pressure test it and things like that. So I need to look around, find somebody to do that. Once I get that done, I'll get all the wee bits done, get it down to the shop, get it past its road date, and then that'll be that one done. Anyway, it's a beautiful day, and I'm not doing much today, so I'll get this video out to you, and I'll catch you all soon. Cheers for now.